Hello, it's Jonathan at the piano lesson. Welcome back. Took a little break from last week, and today is the day we talk about the diminished chord and diminished sound. That was a big subject for Barry Harris. Probably nothing I'm going to tell you today has anything to do with Barry Harris, but it's a really fascinating subject, diminished chords, diminished scales, diminished sounds, and what to do when you encounter a diminished chord, how to play it in a way that doesn't sound corny, kind of simplistic, and also how to spell the chords too. So all those things. Yeah, let's just kind of dive in. You know, I think of harmony, if you're teaching a kid, let's say, but I think of harmony as three basic sounds. There's happy, it's the major; sad, that's the minor; and then there's scary, and that's diminished. So, you know, major, minor, diminished. That's the kind of much more severe sound. And then I suppose there's this that's augmented. And sometimes we call that the question chord. What? That kind of sounds questioning. Now, the reason I don't include that is because of the function of that chord. It's often functions as a major chord in a way. It functions as a dominant chord often. So I just kind of leave that one out. But I think of there's three basic sounds. Root, third, fifth, major, right? Root, flat, third, fifth, minor. Root, flat, third, flat, fifth. Now if we're talking about seven chords, well, root, third, fifth, seventh. Root, flat, third, fifth, flat, seven. That's the minor seven. And root, flat third, flat fifth, double flat seven. That's the diminished chord. I skipped over the half diminished. And when I say root, third, fifth, seventh, what am I referring to? I'm referring to the scale degrees, right? So in a scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the eighth note is the octave, the repeated note. So let's take an example. When you can use the diminished chord when it's actually written in the song and when it's also not written in the song. So, and I think I'm going to start with the not written part first. And if you've heard the song Misty, Errol Garner's Misty, look at me, right? F minor 7, B flat major, B flat 7 rather. That's a flat 9, but B flat 7, E flat major 7, 2, 5, 1. Really nice, But we hear that all the time. So what are we going to do with that? Well, I'll tell you in a second. After this special TV offer, no. So E flat major, right? And just another E flat. This is E flat minor. And then this is E flat diminished. Now, this spelling is kind of odd. Let's just take a look at this for a second. I mean, it's not odd, but these are all skips, right? When you spell chords, these are all skips. So basically, some kind of an E flat, some kind of a G, some kind of a B, and some kind of a E if it's the octave. In this instance, it's E flat, G, B flat, and back to E flat because that's the octave. And likewise here, except here we have the G flat. That's the third, root, third, fifth, and then the root again. Here we have the E flat, G flat, B, double flat, and because it's a 7 chord, D double flat. Now, I don't particularly think spelling the chord that way is the best idea. It's kind of confusing sometimes. It's probably easier to spell it as in the N harmonic, as an N harmonic, D sharp, F sharp, A, and what did I do here? D sharp, F sharp. Oh, there's the line. A, and then C. It's probably better to spell it as D sharp diminished rather than E flat. Right. And that diminished chord is actually one of 3 diminished chords in the entire diminished scale. What do I mean by that? Well, when you see one diminished chord, don't just think of one diminished chord. Think of 3, actually. So let's just do our best to write this in as best I can. D sharp, F sharp, A. What am I doing here? D sharp, F sharp, A, and C. All right, those are our skips. But then the next chord is very interesting. That's actually part of the same scale. How should we spell that? Well, let's try this. E sharp, which is D, okay. G sharp, B, and D. E sharp, G sharp, B, and D. Again, they're all we're skipping letters in the alphabet, okay? Those are all part of the same scale. And then the other notes we're missing. What are the other notes? Well, there's 12 altogether, right? So here's 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's 5, 6, 7, 8. What are we missing? Well, 9, 10, 11, 12. E, G, B flat, D flat. E, G, B flat, and D flat. So we got E diminished, and E sharp diminished, and D sharp diminished. Right? Those are all really one idea. They're actually part of the same idea. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that if you see a D sharp diminished chord, you could play any one of these other 2 along with it. Now, or that is an interesting sound as well. And I will tell you that it's not uncommon to play this, to use the D natural, if you have a D sharp diminished chord, not to do this, but to do this. Or you could do both to get that major 7 in. That kind of has a very blunted sort of sound. You can also open the chord up, of course, but that's a little trick for your diminished chords. You just stick in that extra note instead of this. It's a real nice sound. All right, so let's go back to our Misty example, all right? 2, 5, 1. How's this? Watch. Isn't that nice? You get that? And that now, I don't have to double the note because the note's in the melody. And then I've taken these 2 notes and moved them up here so it doesn't sound muddy. And then I have the melody note already built in. And then you can resolve, instead of, I mean, that's fine, but it gets to be a little bit predictable, right? So that's a nicer sound. And then resolving to the major 7. Or very intense. Right? There's an example. Right? So the D sharp together with the E sharp. So when you grab a diminished chord, you can grab it in root position, but grab another root position chord along with it. Right? Real nice way to enhance your diminished chords. And just as a reminder, you know, they're part of the same scale, right? So you have this. This is, I'll spell it this way: D sharp, E sharp, F sharp, G sharp. So it's alphabetical order, steps. Okay, that's the first. That's a minor tetrachord. That's D sharp minor. It's a D sharp minor tetrachord. And this is an A tetrachord. D sharp, E sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C, D. C goes in alphabetical order. And then if this is a D, and this is a D sharp, what would that be? Well, that's the subject of a whole other lesson probably, but it's probably some kind of an E, and let's just, I don't know. I mean, but you see how the spelling kind of breaks down. So this is an A minor tetrachord, right? But there's the scale. So here's your lower, right, and here's your upper. And if you go up the scale, have you ever practiced diatonic diminished chords in the scale? So you're making all diminished chords built on the notes of the diminished scale. That's it. That's a real handy thing to know how to do, or to be able to start on any note walking up the scale. Now, here we have a perfect fourth, but here we have a diminished fourth. So it changes. Perfect fourth, diminished fourth, perfect fourth, diminished fourth, perfect fourth, diminished fourth. It looks like a third, but it's not. It's E sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A are the notes. You should be able to go up the scale in thirds. So we have being able to kind of take in that whole idea, and at any point, right, you can cordon off these areas, right? You can do that, right, and you can do this, right, and you can do this, right. So all of that going up, organizing that, and again, I'm just kind of a stickler about spelling, but again, general rules of spelling. Just if it's a chord, if it's a root position chord, just skip letters in the alphabet, all right? And if it's a scale, just steps, okay? And then adapt or modify the note however you need to, whether you make it into a flat or sharp or double flat or double sharp. And then you might find that, oh, well, I don't think I'm spelling it correctly, but I don't think I really want to spell it that way. I'm writing a chord chart, and I don't want to use double flats. It's not practical. If you're playing classical music, I think it's important, especially in piano music. It's important. If you're writing a part, for one instrument, you're writing for trumpet. I think it's probably better not to write the double flat. Even though it might diverge from the key of the double sharp, just make it, easier. I think it's just makes more sense. The trumpet player doesn't have to know what the concert key is necessarily, But I'm trying to think of what other examples, are good for diminished chords off the top of my head. I think I had some on the top of my head, and they just sort of flew out. But I'll think of them. But that's the gist. The gist is that when you see a diminished chord, realize that it's really part of a bigger idea. It's part of this 12 note idea. Although yes, the diminished scale is actually 8 notes, and then the octave, which is really not an octave, as opposed to a diatonic scale, a major scale, or a mode which is 7 notes, and then the octave. That's what makes the diminished scale so interesting. But at the very least, you can think of the diminished chord actually as 2 chords. So again, if it's a D diminished, well then just think of it as E diminished on top. They used to write horizontal lines as polychords, but that's D diminished, E diminished. It's cool. And then the half step. It's like horror movies. I don't know. What else do you want to do? What else? Well, I never hear from you guys. I never know what you want to work on. It's always what I want to work on. But I like these. There's also the half diminished, right? Like there's it's a night and day. You are the one. So the first chord, D minor 7 flat 5, night and day. And how am I voicing that? Root 7th, 5th, and I have the G up here. I can even put a half step. You can do that on the piano, put the F up there. So that's a little different. But yeah. What are we thinking about? Right. Let me just play a little bit. I don't know if you notice, so that style of playing is called stride. The word stride meaning you're moving your left hand a wide distance in the bass, and the left hand is doing a number of jobs. It's kind of keeping the beat. It's kind of like the drummer. It's also like the bass player, and it's kind of like the guitar player at the same time. So you're doing that. And the right hand, you're playing the melody, so that's like the saxophone player, but also you're adding some chords. So it's more like a saxophone section, really, something like that. But if you notice, there's a few things when I play in that style and when I play piano in general. Of course, you're thinking about dynamics. You're thinking about the right hand being louder than the left, okay? But also creating contrast, very important so that the ear can, I call it hearing into the music. So not just loud and soft, but also long versus short. In the right hand, I'm trying to play long notes, connect the notes, sustain the notes. Practically speaking, it's harder to sustain notes in the right hand than it is in the left. So making like kind of short, light notes, I kind of divide notes into two categories. There's felt notes, and then there's heard notes, okay? So all of the notes are heard, and all of the notes are felt, but some are felt more than heard, and some are heard more than felt. So the left hand is really just more, sensing the music, right? And that kind of creates some clarity, because if you have both hands doing the same thing, the music gets too muddy, and very often kind of trying to, when you create more tone, create more sustain, creating sustain on the piano, as opposed to volume, but doubling notes, tripling notes, playing octaves, things like that, and picking tempos also that one can manage, comfortably, and that just feel good, I think it's pretty typical when people are younger, they play faster tempos, and when they get older, they play slower tempos, but not because they're old and tired. I think it's because we want to kind of hear what we're playing, and we want to be able to digest the music. If you play too fast, you can't really hear what you're playing, and the audience can't hear what you're playing. And that's also true of adapting to whatever piano you're on. Some pianos have more or less tone in the room, and so those are all considerations. And creating texture, right? So sometimes you want those dense chords, but other times you want something that's very transparent. So sometimes you'll double a line, you'll double a melodic line. Other times you want kind of a very big, sort of crunchy, textural dark chord, but trying to create contrast. And ideally, in dynamics, you want to create at least 3 different dynamics. So, see, melody is forte, bass is like mezzo forte, and like the middle part is like piano, right? But that kind of a thing it really comes over much better in terms of making sense on the piano. See, right here. That's a diminished chord. Yeah, in the roaring traffic. These are all diminished chords. In the roaring traffic's boom. Well, they're not all diminished. This is diminished, minor. So F sharp diminished, F minor, E minor, D sharp diminished. So if I did that differently, in the words are, in the roaring traffic's boom, in the silence of my lonely room, I think of you night and day. So this chord, F sharp diminished, I could play in the roaring traffic's. I'm adding that diminished chord on top, or I could play, that's not good. I can tell you that right now. I'm not sure if I really like that as much, but I like it here. Listen, in the roaring traffic's boom. Right now, I'm just spreading the notes out in the chord, root 7/3, okay? And I like that sound. Now listen. Silence of my lonely room. That's the stacked sound. That's the F diminished 7 over the E diminished 7. E flat, pardon me. E flat, yeah. Or D sharp, however you want. Think of you night and day, and it goes to E flat, night and day, under the height of me. There's an old ceremony yearning, burning inside of me. Big open chord. I'm playing a 4th here, or 11th. F up to B flat, not the 7th. I could reverse it. I could go, instead of F, B flat, E flat, A flat, I could go F, A flat, E flat, B flat. See, that's just slightly different. I just changed those 2 notes around. Hear the difference? Here's F up to B flat, and here's the 3rd. Root 11th, 7th, 3rd. Root 3rd, 7th, 11th. Two very close voicings, right? But it creates variety in your playing just by kind of flipping those notes around. So anyway, I hope you had fun. I did too. And drop me a line. This is Jonathan, the Piano Lesson, and we'll see you next time. And big hello to my buddy Francesco in sunny Italy. Bye-bye.